Beethoven's Sonata Opus 110 comes from what we call the late period, the last 10 years of Beethoven's life when he was totally deaf. He was socially isolated from the rest of the world, even though he was world-renowned as the greatest composer of his time. He had many personal problems. The lack of a female relationship had almost destroyed him before this period. Problems with custody of his nephew, long legal battles. Beethoven just couldn't seem to get a break. Despite this, the late period has some of his most profound, magnificent works, including this sonata, which is the next to the last in the canon of 32. It was completed on Christmas Day in 1821 after Beethoven had recovered from a long illness, and Beethoven actually writes some of this recovery into the story of the music. The sonata starts with a very gentle, beautiful, lyrical first movement. It's followed by a movement which has a scherzo feel, but isn't really a scherzo. Beethoven uses two Austrian folk tunes, the ever-popular I'm a Slob, You're a Slob, and My Cat Had Kittens. So with these two very contrasting movements, then Beethoven were on the doorstep of the finale after only about 7 minutes. And the finale is made up of a number of different sections in different tempos, different characters. It begins with a recitative-like section that sounds like a singer but without any words. Then the next section is a very sad, beautiful song. Beethoven calls it a song of sorrow, where the right hand sings this beautiful, sad, long melody with the left hand throbbing chords in the accompaniment. This dies away, and then the next section is a very serene, tranquil fugue that sounds like it could have been written by J.S. Bach or Handel, two of Beethoven's predecessors that he was obsessed with at this point in his life. The music builds to a big climax, and we think that the piece is done, but then Beethoven pulls us back immediately into the sorrowful song again, but this time the melody is broken up, and Beethoven actually writes the words broken and sobbing into the score. This dies away again, and at this point you hear a repeated chord over and over again, muffled but growing and growing. And I think of this as Beethoven's heartbeat almost stopping and then coming back. And Beethoven actually writes in the music, little by little coming back to life. And so he brings the fugue back, but this time he turns the subject upside down, what we call inversion. And Beethoven does some other fancy things that are rather abstruse, having to do with how he treats this subject. But finally, the music almost bursts into flame, and the fugue melody soars over the texture for a triumphant, wonderful conclusion.